that, let us bring in Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, you heard DA Alvin Bragg's argument there, so I'll ask you point blank. Do you, in Congress, have congressional oversight over a DA prosecuting a former president, federal, using federal funds to do so, and inevitably charging on federal law?
Yeah, absolutely we do. Congress has authority over it. They use federal funds. They're actually saying that Trump should have used campaign funds for this, which is a violation of federal election law. So there's also a federal election law nexus. But the bigger point here is you have a district attorney who is using his authority and going after a president to affect the outcome of the 2024 election. So I don't see how we wouldn't want to get involved from congressional oversight perspective. And this individual that we subpoenaed doesn't work for the DA anymore, wrote a book about the fact that Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring charges against Trump and all these other things that we simply want to ask questions. And it should be very telling to the American people that Alvin Bragg is trying to prevent that individual from testifying. What exactly is he hiding?
Yeah, I mean, he calls it an unconstitutional attack on him being Bragg, even calling Jordan's move brazen. And that's a quote, brazen. What exactly does he think his move to indict Trump was? Normal?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're going after a former president. It's unprecedented, never happened in the history of our country, over a crime that is not a crime. Legal scholars after legal scholars, there's all sorts of constitutional issues under the Sixth Amendment. There's statute of limitation issues. And the underlying crime where he changed business records is technically a misdemeanor, but they're trying to say he should have used campaign finance or a campaign account to pay for it, which is federal election crimes. And none of that's even been really pled well within the indictment proceedings. So you have all sorts of issues here. It's 100% politically motivated. If Trump wasn't up in the polls and he wasn't running for president again, they wouldn't be filing this charge against him.
And you raise a great point on Pomerantz. He's not part of the DA's office anymore, and he does hold the key. No. There's something there. Yeah. There's something behind this we need the answer to. Meantime, dozens of high-profile athletes are opposing the Protection of Girls and Women Sports Act, which you introduced in February. Here's a portion of their letter. Quote, "We believe that gender equity in sport is critical. Our deepest hope is that transgender and intersex kids will never have to feel the isolation, exclusion, and othering that H.R. 734, which is the name of the bill, is seeking to enshrine into law." Your response, Congressman?
Well, first of all, we're not keeping any child from being able to play sports. We're just saying you have to play sports or collegiate activities in your biological sex, so there's an equal playing field. Congress enacted Title IX 50 years ago in the 70s to create women's sports, to allow an equal playing field for women to play women in women's sports. And now the left wants to allow biological men to compete with them. And it's example after example. I had Emma Wyant here in Sarasota that was beat in an Olympic trial in swimming by Leah Thomas, a biological male. You've seen what's happened to Riley Gaines being physically attacked in her testimony about how she's lost medals in positions. This happens every single day in America. It's wrong. It's a violation of Title IX. It was created to protect women's sports, and we're going to ensure that that's protected next week.
Yeah, I mean, these women, Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird, they played against biological women. They don't know the implications and what can happen to these young kids right now. I mean, as a female athlete myself, I'd be mortified to know it's hard enough to play against a really solid biological female in sports. So, I mean, this just makes it almost impossible to win.
It's just crazy that the left has this so progressive ideology that is forcing this on people and forcing it collegiately. It's time to stand up for women's sports. It's time to protect Title IX.
Good for you.
Congressman Greg Steube, appreciate your time this morning. We appreciate your time as well. Fox and Friends.